Thank you, Vicky. Welcome to our Women Who Make It Happen series. Lovely to have you here today.
Thank you.
Perhaps you can give us an introduction on yourself and how your career's evolved.
Sure. So I'm currently a managing director within compliance at Barclays. I've been at Barclays just over 2 years, but almost all my career has been in risk compliance or the regulator. So very briefly, at the very beginning of my career, I joined the Bank of England as a supervisor from university, which was an incredible training opportunity.
Yes.
You get to see things you wouldn't see anywhere else. There is a rigour and discipline about what the Bank of England does. So I learnt huge amounts about writing, about analysis, about questioning, which I still rely on today.
Yeah.
And it's been a huge foundation of my career. I then moved around the city, did a few different things, left the regulator, but then went back to the FSA as it was, really to work on retail. And that's when I moved out of wholesale banking and trading and into the retail space, which I love. It makes a difference to people's lives. It is really, really real. And so at the regulator, I worked on thematic issues such as PPI. So that was evolving in about 2006, 2007, and later on supervised one of the large banks. I moved out from there back into industry and ended up at the Cambridge Building Society.
Excellent.
They were establishing their risk and compliance function at a more senior level. And that was an amazing development opportunity. So I was there for 8 years, starting off as head of risk and then becoming chief risk officer, looking after risk compliance, corporate governance, financial crime. And that taught me a lot about working in a small firm. It's an organisation of 200 people. Everybody has to roll their sleeves up. Everybody has to get stuck in, and you have to be flexible. You have to be adaptive. There is no room for silos. And you have to be a very, very close-knit team. And again, I learnt a lot there about operating at the leadership table. So I became a board director. I was an executive director for them for many years, and moving from being the most junior newly appointed director to actually one of the longest standing, and helping others transition through to that board leadership journey. Then after 8 years, I think it was just time for me to find a new challenge. The Cambridge was going from strength to strength, but I needed to develop more broadly. And took a slightly unusual step. I moved into Fintech.
Okay, so an even smaller entity.
Actually, it was in terms of people, it's bigger. So I went to Revolut.
Oh, okay. Oh gosh, that's much bigger.
So that was about 1,000 people at the time I joined. Its people growth has been exponential in recent years. And the rationale for that was really, I knew a lot about risk and compliance, I knew a lot about regulation, I knew a lot about running a retail bank. What I didn't know about was technology and how to use that technology base to support the bank. So when I spoke to the leadership team of the UK bank at Revolut, it seemed like a really good fit that we could work together, bring together my skill set with what they had, and again, create that learning opportunity as we worked through. And I did learn a lot. I only stayed for 9 months. But then I think I realised I was more suited to a more traditional environment, took a step back, and an opportunity arose to join Barclays, which I was really excited about. I'd never worked for a Big Four bank. And I think
how did you transition from smaller entities into more huge entities such as Barclays? It took some doing, but not because I think just because I needed to shift my mindset. And actually, what you need to do, what I needed to do was break Barclays up into a series of smaller entities. Yes.
So I can get my head around it. Well, I think of it as concentric circles.
Yeah.
So you have the Barclays UK compliance team, then you have compliance, then you have the Barclays UK business, and then you have Barclays Group. Yeah. And what I didn't try to do was understand it all at once. It was start in the middle, so the first 6 months was right, let's understand this world, then move to this world, then and that helped me really get under the skin of it and think of it. It is a series of small businesses.
Yes. So were you in group then?
So I'm in the retail bank. I'm in Barclays UK,
bank,
so I'm in the ring fence retail bank. So the subject matter is what I know. It's retail banking, and particularly I look at operations and distribution within there.
Excellent. That's a massive area on its own right for retail.
It's branches, it's telephony, it's technology.
and also change and transformation. So it is a broad and varied portfolio.
Yeah.
But Barclays is so enormous that we have to obviously portion it up between us.
Yes.
But I think what it allowed me to do is think about it in parts, and then actually the bit that's different, or one of the bits that's different, is that you have obviously this overarching group structure.
Yeah.
So that you, whilst you're learning your bit, you need to think about how you fit into the whole, and how you fit within what Barclays is trying to achieve from its overall group strategy.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting. The other big difference is the decision-making chains are longer because they have to be,
Yes.
particularly when it's a group thing. So when I was at the Building Society fairly early on, we needed to redesign our complaints handling, and that was 2 of us in a room for half a day that went, yeah, we should probably just do it
Wow.
like this.
Very agile.
And then we rolled it out because we were rolling it out to 30 people.
Yes. Yeah.
Whereas if doing it at Barclays, you have to think about a far broader range of products,
Yep.
a far broader range of channels, and then you're running it out to tens of thousands of people. So it has to be a completely different delivery methods. Many of the fundamentals remain the same, that you have to keep it simple, you have to keep it understandable, you have to keep it customer focused, but the way in which you engage and deliver has to be different to compensate for the size and complexity of the organisation.
Yeah. So how do you tend to lead your team, Vicky? How's your role as a leader evolved over the years?
I think I try to be a very inclusive leader, and what I love doing is developing my team to the point that actually they can go off and do bigger, better things. So I have people that I managed, supported sort of early on in my leadership career who are now in very senior roles in various organisations. That's phenomenal.
Oh, that's really nice to know.
And it's really lovely to see how they're doing, and and thinking hopefully I played a sort of small part in that.
Yes.
I definitely don't micromanage. I don't have the sort of time and the energy and the patience for that. It's more about what I'm building on a lot with my team at the moment is around strengths-based leadership. And we've done work to know that everybody in the team knows what their strengths are.
That's good.
Everybody has strengths, but actually sometimes we don't know what they are, and what's really important as a team is we have diverse strengths.
Yes.
If we all have the same strengths, then actually we don't work, we're unbalanced.
Absolutely.
And I think that's been important for people to understand, because people have kind of thought, well, they're really good at that and I'm not, rather than thinking, well, they're really good at that and I'm really good at this, and together we are better at both.
Yes.
And I think that's been a really important journey that we're going through at the moment, to say, right, everybody now knows what their top 5 strengths are, and we are going to work to build so that actually as a team, when we need people to do things, we think about what people's strengths are, and we use them and we stretch them and they develop them. Your weaknesses will never become your strengths. Yeah. And actually that was a big learning fairly on in my career. I was thinking, actually, certain things aren't my strengths, but I need to really work on them. And I went on the course in Said, and one of the things they were very clear was your weaknesses will never become your strengths.
Oh, that's
and
interesting
it was
to know, isn't it?
Penny dropping to go, right, now I know that, I can accept that, and actually my strengths should become stronger.
Yes.
So I keep building on them, I keep working on them, and I manage my weaknesses so they're not detrimental, they're not harmful, but I'm never going to suddenly excel.
Yeah.
At whatever the weaknesses are. And I think actually coming to that realisation helped me, and then now trying to develop the team so that they understand what their strengths are. We've actually done it in a way that generally we've not shared with them what their weaknesses are, because this way they can focus on what they are strong at, what they are good at, and we've told everybody in the team what everybody else's strengths are, so that we can have
that's really positive.
We can have that acknowledgement about, right, whether you are a new graduate on the team, whether you are somebody who is nearer retirement, we've all got different strengths, we've got different things to bring, and let's acknowledge them as a team and work out what's complementary, so that if you need help in this, go to so-and-so, go to the other person. And that, I think that makes us stronger as a team. We will always perform better when we are stronger. I've always enjoyed my career the most when I've been part of a strong team. Yeah. Because you've got people to bounce off, people to learn from. One of the things I'm really enjoying about Barclays is that I have peers in my technical area. So as much as I love the Cambridge, and I still love the Cambridge, I was the most senior risk and compliance person there. Yep. And if kind of what I said, people agreed with me because I had the most technical knowledge. Yeah. And I'm human, I'm not always going to be right. And actually here I have people that will challenge me, debate me,
have as much technical knowledge or more than I do, and it stretches you. And I think, again, being part of a really strong team like that helps you develop.
Yeah.
And what I want to do is bring the team on so that they are building on their strengths. And then the other key thing I've learned over the years is not everybody's career paths and ambitions are the same.
No,
so I think
no,
early on I was going, right, everybody wants to achieve this, and then I was struggling to understand why that wasn't satisfying them, why it wasn't working.
Yeah.
And it took a while to realise actually different people are aiming for different things, whether it's homework balance, whether it's a breadth of career, whether it's a real speciality.
Mm-hmm.
Some people desperately want to become more senior. Some people just want to really enjoy what they're doing and keep doing it. And you have to understand what people's motivations and goals are, and you have to adapt their development to what they want to do.
Yes.
And that was an important lesson for me as we went through. So now, hopefully we do, I do with my team, and some of them are very clearly focused on moving through the ladder within the organisation. Yep. Others actually want to get a breadth of experience that they move between different teams. Others just really want to become a real expert on a particular subject matter and remain that subject matter expert, but at the level they're doing, and it's making sure that you are adapting what you're doing to them, rather than assuming you know what everybody wants, because you really don't.
It's a nice, refreshing way of leading people and making sure you have that diversity of thought rather than just a team, the team dynamics and the culture, which is really nice to hear about. Did you ever have any role models during your career as you were going through different entities?
Oh, definitely. And sometimes they would be in my organisation, sometimes they would be in other organisations.
Yeah.
And I think, when I was at the Cambridge, but I had two CEOs, I learned huge amounts from both of them.
Yes.
And they were different in style, but actually, challenged me, made me perform better in different ways. And I think, one gave me a lot of clear advice and experience around managing upwards, particularly to the board, and how to develop there. And that's something I've used going forward. And actually now I have a non-executive role, and I'm using things I've learned from him in that as well. And then the other was more around strategic development and how we build and grow the organisation, how we lead more broadly. So sort of different skill sets there. But then there have been, people within risk. So I look at people like Julia Dunn, who's now the Chief Risk Officer at HSBC, who I worked with briefly at the FCA when I was there. And she's phenomenal. And when we're in the building society sector, and just looking at the way she has led and moved between different organisations, I think is, really inspiring, and really somebody that you can look to a role model. And then also looking out into the business and seeing where you've got sort of strong female leaders. I work with some, phenomenal women in the first line business leaders within Barclays who I look at particularly how they can lead teams of tens of thousands of people and bring them forward, and that's a huge skill.
Yeah.
And how they do that and how they bring people forward is really inspiring when you watch them do it.
So what would be next for you? What's your next challenge?
I don't know. It's always, I like doing things that are interesting and where I learn. That's always what I try to find it. So I can never say it's definitely this, because I've never had a sort of clearly defined path.
Yes.
It's, what I wouldn't do is go and do something that's similar to what I've done before.
Yeah.
That's the thing I know. So if somebody went, here's the role that's very similar to being an MD in compliance at Barclays, at another big bank. So that's
more like the same, isn't it?
I'm not going to learn anything new.
No.
I like learning things that are new, that are things that are different. I think there's lots of interesting things happening in the world at risk at the moment around climate and sustainability. Yeah. I was very lucky to do a course on sustainability leadership about 18 months ago. That's fascinating, and that is, emerging. I think there is lots going on in the world of non-financial risk.
Yep.
And I'm particularly interested, now we've had consumer duty emerge, about how actually we are using a data-driven approach to conduct risk. I think sometimes compliance and conduct risk management, particularly if you look back to its early, so I was involved in TCF when it was sort of emerging in about 2006, 2007.
And then when it became conduct risk, kind of post-crisis, so you've had this evolution of
Yes.
of language and of professionalism. And I think what you've seen in the compliance industry is it's evolved from what was historically very kind of legalistic tick box approach. Have you handed piece of paper A to person B at point C in a conversation?
Yep.
To then conduct risk, and particularly TCF, where it almost felt slightly anecdote driven.
Yeah.
And the plural of anecdote is not data.
Yeah.
So actually what we're doing now is professionalising it, and the FCA is very clear on this data-driven approach, that almost what you want to see is that conduct risk is as data-driven as credit risk.
Yeah.
That's where I would love it to get to, just as an industry, so that you can go, right, I have a process, so you know, we have a customer in arrears.
Yeah.
Okay, my data points will be how quickly are they coming out of arrears, how well are they maintaining any arrangement that's come in place, how often are they having to contact us. And when you start to look to variations from the norms, you can see that through and start to say, oh, you're achieving the right customer outcomes. And similarly with price and value. So if you go back to the bad old days of PPI, well, I was on that project in 2007, and the Competition Authority at the time put out a report that was very clearly set out unsecured personal loans in the UK were unprofitable at the time.
Yeah.
They were entirely subsidised by the fact you were selling payment protection insurance on the top of it. And I was briefly working in a bank branch at the time, and as you know, bank branch advisors would get, I can't remember, sort of £2 for selling a loan, or £15 for selling a loan with insurance.
Yes.
But something in there should be triggering something in somebody's head to go, is this the right, if we can make this much profit on it, is this the right thing for the customer?
Yeah.
And clearly we didn't have TCF, we didn't have consumer duty in the same way at that point, but actually the way the thinking's evolved. Firms need to be using finance data to make conduct risk decisions.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's interesting, where the industry is going, where the FCA is moving people. And when you start to bring those two together, that for me is when it gets really interesting, and that's what I could see me going to do more of.
That sounds nice.
In the future. And then at some
evolving
point,
challenge.
Yeah, then at some point I think I would like to expand the NED thing further when the time's right. So I've been a non-exec on a multi-academy trust, so we run schools for 7 years now, and I'm just stepping onto a new Cambridgeshire Community Foundation, which runs large charitable trusts that does grant giving. So yeah,
and very, very charitable for you to do that, because it's invaluable for those organisations to have professional individuals on their boards, which is brilliant.
And they do have good boards, and I've learned a lot from doing both. So the education one, I joined it, you know, my own experience of education was firstly going to school, and then having a daughter who went to school or goes to school. So I thought, well, I don't quite know what I'll, and that was interesting, because I kind of thought, I don't quite know what I'll add, because I can't sit here and contribute to how they teach the English curriculum, or actually how we do safeguarding, which is a hugely important part in education. But what I did get involved in, I'm still very heavily challenging on, is how we run our finances, how we do governance, so the board making the right decision at the right level. As a trust, we went through some fairly big structural changes, so we merged with another trust, and actually making sure that we can say from a governance perspective, we have done adequate due diligence, we have done our corporate duty as trustees, we know we are not taking on undue liabilities, either from a finance perspective, from an educational, from safeguarding. And there are things you have to do. And that was a learn for me, that I could say, actually, even though I know nothing about education, there are things I can bring to this table.
Absolutely.
And it's learning how you apply what you know to a completely different setting. And that's been massively rewarding, because at the beginning I was a bit lost. But actually now, again, as I've sort of grown and got established on that board, I know what I can bring to the table. I can ask some questions about curriculum, but not huge amounts. But I can ask an awful lot about things that are equally as important around finance, around risk management, around governance, which they have to maintain.
Fantastic. Are there any takeaways that you would give to perhaps individuals coming to into the industry to progress their career in leadership? What piece of advice would you give them?
I think there's a few. I think the first one is, I now quote it as find the sensible people.
Yes, I like that one.
there was some film with Tom Hanks, whose name escapes me, where I think they used to say
find the kind people
Yes.
to children. I think as you get into the working world, find the sensible people, because not everybody is. But actually having people who you trust, people who you can talk to, people who are sounding boards.
Yeah.
You know, I've had them in every organisation I've worked with, and they've been invaluable. And have a network. I hate the word network.
Yeah.
Because people think networking is kind of going to a room with a name badge and a cup of bad white wine, and it's not. Networking is getting to know people and making friends.
Absolutely.
And I've discovered, looking back on my career, I'm actually quite good at it. I didn't think I was, because I just thought, oh, I hate networking events. But actually, I know a lot of people, and that's just because I like chatting to interesting people. So talk to people. One bit of good advice I was given is people like talking about themselves. People like being asked for advice. So if you're stuck, ask.
Yep. Absolutely.
And I've got into some, you know, when I've had really challenging points in my career, I have reached out to people and been very honest and said, I need some help, I need some advice, can I talk to you?
Yeah.
And people are willing to do that. I think, you know, you have to be thoughtful about when you do it, and don't do it all the time. But actually, I think people do generally like to support others, like to look through. And then work out as an individual what's important to you, what your style is. You have to be authentic to yourself.
Yeah.
And you have to develop a style of leadership that is yours. So don't try and imitate somebody else, because you will never be as good at being them as they are.
Yeah.
So you have to work out what your strengths are, how you lead through that, and then what you want to do and what's important for you in a career.
Yep.
And go and find it. Because different things, as we've talked about before, different things are important to different people. And I think you can do that and develop that. Also, don't expect it to be linear.
Yes.
My career absolutely
linear.
has not been linear. And that's fine. Not every step has to be forward. Sometimes it becomes sideways. Sometimes you'll have things going on in your personal life where you want to do sideways to slightly backwards. And that's fine. You're not going to, you know, if you're going up the M1, you're not going to be doing 70 miles an hour from London to Leeds.
Yep.
Sometimes you'll go slower, sometimes you'll go, but you will get there. And actually, what's more important is that you enjoy it, you are not stressed, and you take the time to sort of see what's going on around you. Possibly not what's going on at the M1.
Yeah. I like that analogy.
But you need to, you know, there are times when, you know, my daughter was small, when we've done different things, and actually, you know, even joining the Cambridge was because we lived in Cambridge and I needed to work somewhere near where she went to school. It turned out to be the most phenomenal career opportunity for me, and it was very, very fortuitous. But the first driving factor was it was near the primary school.
Yeah.
And then later on, you know, at the moment I can hit the accelerator a bit more because she's older. We can, you know, change the work-life balance a bit differently, but you can't keep going 100 miles an hour all the time. You'll just be exhausted.
Yeah.
Quite frankly.
I think that's an important lesson actually for everybody. Excellent. Thank you so much, Vicky, for your time.
Thank you.
With our Women Who Make It Happen series.
Thank you. No, I've really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.